We are very fortunate to have Mr. AJ Phillips sir to this interview series, especially commemorating and reflecting on the lives of Metropolitan Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorius. So kindly share your memories about Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorius as he was Father Paul Vergis and about his outlook during those days.
Yes, in the during the during that period, I was a little communist. Marxism had influenced me, so I used to read a lot by Marxist scholars and leaders, and one of them was, of course, EMS Namboodiripad. He had written about a red priest in Latin America. He was called a red priest. I have forgotten his name. So he said he was the first to start liberation theology in Latin America. And it was around that time I came across the name Reverend Paul Verghese. And I used to live in Pathanamthitta. And Pathanamthitta, as you know, is famous for Makangunna Convention. It's organized by the Orthodox Church every year, yeah, a little before the Maraman Convention. So one day I went there to listen to Father Paul Verghese, and that was the first time I met him. Oh, no, I did not meet him. First time I saw him, I heard him, and then I realized that how powerful a speaker he was, and also was greatly influenced by his ideological perspective. He was towards the left, and I would call him a leftist. And I was greatly influenced, maybe because I was also a believer in leftism at that time. So that was my first encounter with Paul Verghese. And then I became very friendly with another priest, and he was Father Thoma of the Orthodox Church. Father Thoma was on the extreme right side, and he used to challenge Father Paul Verghese. Whatever Father Paul Verghese wrote, Father Thoma would write a counter article or a counter book, and this they were antagonists that way. Of course, they had nothing in personal, but they used to fight over theological issues. And Father Thoma was a great scholar, and I was very, very friendly with him. I used to meet him in almost every day for at least 1 year. And so he was very friendly, and through him, of course, he was critical of Father Paul Verghese, but through whom I could also discern a lot about Father Paul Verghese. And these are my early memories of Father Paul Verghese.
Yes. Sir, as a speaker, Father Paul Vergis was a renowned figure, not just in Kerala, but across the globe. So kindly share your thoughts about it.
Yeah, that is the first time I met him. First time I saw him in that was in 1975. I was in Bhopal, and he was consecrated a bishop, and the emergency was in force at that time. So he had come to Bhopal, and he was staying very close to my house. That was in a new market area in Bhopal, and he was staying alone. And the priest of the Bhopal church was a friend of mine, and he was my neighbor also. So with his help, I sought an appointment, and the appointment was given. I went to his place, and I had a long conversation with him for about 4 hours, at least 4 or 5 hours. I spent with him, and he had a lot of questions to me also. He wanted to know more about emergency, how the people are responding to emergency, and things like that. And I asked him a lot of theological questions, which he answered very well, and there was no hesitation at all in answering any of the questions. I found him a profound scholar and a theologian, a great theologian, and a great orator. These are the qualities that I remember during my interview. I did a piece on him, and it was published in my paper, the paper I work for, the Hidawat in Bhopal. So that was the first time I perhaps interviewed a bishop. I don't think I had ever interviewed a bishop till then. So he was the first bishop to be interviewed, and he was new. He was new as the metropolitan of Delhi, and so that was a great experience for me.
Sir, in what ways did Mar Gregorius influence your writing?
Yeah, very interestingly, he told me that, if he were not a bishop or if he had not become a priest, he might have become a journalist. So that is what he told me, and he had a lot of interest in journalism. He said, he finds the profession fascinating. So that is what he told me. And I have read a lot of his, and I won't say a lot of, but I have read quite a few books by him and articles also by him. And I noticed that, he is a very good journalist. A journalist is, who is a journalist? A journalist is a person who can communicate well. Whatever is in his mind, he can communicate. So that way, he was a great communicator in both in the spoken form and in the writing form. So he was a good writer, which is an essential quality of a journalist. So he was also a journalist in the sense that he was able to communicate very well.
Kindly share an event about a church in Kayangulam, especially in relation with Mar Gregorius.
Yeah, there is a church, in a famous church. It's called St. George Orthodox Valiapalli. It's at Chepad. Chepad is about 30 kilometers from Kayangulam on the national highway. This is a famous church. This church is believed to have been set up in the year 1050. And it's a beautiful church. And that was, and then, yeah, that was long before, the Mughals came to India. And yeah, very interestingly, this church, it was rebuilt in the 13th century, and at that time the madhaba was renovated, and a lot of mural paintings were there. At least there were 47 mural paintings, big paintings depicting the life stages of Jesus. Not only that, there were also a few episodes from the Old Testament which are depicted on the walls. I have never come across any church in India which has such old murals. Interestingly, all the colors used were natural colors. And even today, these pictures are brilliant and exotic. So this was the church, St. George Orthodox Variapalli. This church is famous for its involvement in the Udayampur Sunagados, that is called the Kunan Gurusha Satya. A lot of people from this church went there. And it is believed that a bishop from that place, Philippos Mar Dionysius, he was a great bishop, and he is buried there. So he is considered a saint in that region. And when his centenary was celebrated, the Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia came to this church, and he was brought there by Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorios. That visit from all the way from Ethiopia to Chepot would not have been possible without the support and involvement of Paulos Mar Gregorios, who was his secretary for some time. So, because of his arrival there, and when he arrived there, the emperor arrived there, this church was declared a pilgrim center, and it remains a pilgrim center even today. But recently, during the expansion of the national highway, there was a plan to the national highway. This church would have gone, but about 400 families of the church, families belonging to this church protested, and a lot of people intervened. And one of my friends in Delhi, one Dr. Barishankar, he also took up the issue with the government, both at the center and in the state. As a result of all that, the alignment was changed and the church was saved. So the church is alive, and it is still there. All the paintings are there. This church is called St. George Orthodox Valiapalli, Chepad.
So what was the relation between Kerala Club and Mar Gregorius?
Yeah, Kerala Club, right now I am the president of Kerala Club. My predecessor at Kerala Club was Professor Omcheri N. Pillai. Omcheri N. Pillai served as president of Kerala Club for a long time, from 1984 onwards. So during that time, he was very friendly with Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorius, who was the metropolitan in Delhi at that time. They became good friends. Professor Ramcheri Enenbilla is a great scholar in the sense that he not only knows a lot about Hinduism, but he is also greatly influenced by Christian philosophy, Christian thoughts. He has written about 52 full-length plays, and if you read I have read all the plays, you will find Christian thoughts and Christian philosophy contained in his writings. So he was greatly influenced by Christian thoughts. Small wonder that he was a close friend of not only Paulos Mar Gregorius, but he was also a friend of Philippos Mar Chrysostom of the Marthoma Church. And during that time, there was a great writer in Kerala. I have just now forgotten the name. He had written a book which had about 10,000 pages on Hinduism. A Christian writing a book which has 10,000 pages. So Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorius wanted that book to be published. So he discussed it with Professor Ramcheri, and Professor Ramcheri Ennanpilla robbed in Mr. D.C. Kedakamari of D.C. Books. When he came to Delhi, the three of them had a meeting and they decided to publish the book. If the book was published, it would have been at least 20 volumes. So 20 volumes, publishing 20 volumes is not an easy thing, and it requires a lot of money. So they decided to publish it, and DC Kedakamari went ahead and made an announcement also, but unfortunately there were not many takers for that book at that time. So the idea fizzled out. The book could not be published. Later on, D.C. Kedakamari handed over the manuscript to the Kaladi Sanskrit University, which has been able to publish only one volume. There are so many volumes, and I have read the first volume, portions of the first volume, and I find it very fascinating. Find it a very fascinating book. If somebody, some university or some rich individual takes up the issue, then this book can be published in full length. Anyway, it was Paulos Mar Gregorius Tirumeni's idea to get it published. Unfortunately, that did not happen. That is his connection with Kerala Club.
So what are your thoughts on Mar Gregorius as an ecumenist and also as a man with concern for the poor?
Yes, that is, as I said, he was a leftist. Who is a leftist? Leftist is a person who believes that, the wealth of the nation should be equitably distributed, and the poor should have as much claim on it as the rich. That is the leftist ideology. And from the writings and the philosophy of Paulos Mar Gregorios, I can make out that he was a leftist, and he stood for ecumenism in a big way. For instance, I don't know whether you remember when the centenary of Swami Vivekananda's lecture, Swami Vivekananda's speech at the World Parliament of Religions in Chicago was celebrated at Boston. He was the one who represented Christianity, and he gave a brilliant speech on Swami Vivekananda's speech. So it shows that he was above narrow sectarian considerations. He was a great humanist. Of course, he was a great Christian philosopher, Christian theologian, but that did not mean that he looked down upon any other religion or any other philosophy. Similarly, he was a great ecumenist. He had no problem with dealing with other churches, other denominations, and he believed in ecumenism, and he considered ecumenism as his article of faith. So he was a great ecumenist.
So please share your recent memory of an international event that talked about Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorius.
Yeah, it was last Sunday. Last Sunday, there was a big gathering in Delhi where the Prime Minister Narendra Modi was the chief guest. It was held at Vigyan Bhavan. This was to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the meeting Mahatma Gandhi had with Srinarayana Guru in Kerala. So this was to celebrate the 100th year of the meeting between two great minds, Swami Vivekananda Srinarayana Guru and and Mahatma Gandhi. So when everybody was seated, the head of the Varkala center of the Varkala center, he stood up and he announced from the podium that he mentioned an article written by Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorius in a Malayalam newspaper, saying that when Mahatma Gandhi met Srinarayana Guru, or when they had an exchange, at that time Mahatma Gandhi gave him the honor of a guru, which means Mahatma Gandhi treated Srinarayana Guru as a guru. That is what the Swamiji said. And when he said this thing, quoting Bishop Paulos Mar Gregorios, then there was a thunderous clapping from the audience. That is what I liked that moment.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable insights and the revelations that you received from the life and personality of Metropolitan Dr. Paulos Mar Gregorius. I'm sure that the present generation will benefit from this interview. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.